Sukhavati Vyuha, I don't know if you still remember. These two are Sanskrit words. Sukhavati means the land of bliss or the land of happiness. And Vyuha means arrangement or magnificent display. So this sutra shows a magnificent display of the land of happiness. And some people call the land of happiness heaven. But in the Buddhist teaching, there's so many heavens. Last time I already showed you the 28 heavens. Each heaven has its own inhabitants in there. And each heaven, if you go to that heaven, you really have to do certain deeds to qualify yourself to go into that heaven. Sukhavati Vyuha means a magnificent display of the land of happiness. Now, why does it call the land of happiness? Now, what do you think, Sariputra? For what reason is that world called Sukhavati? For what reason is that world called the land of happiness? In that world, Sukhavati, Sariputra, Sariputra, you know, of course, the disciple of the Buddha, there is neither bodily nor mental pain for living beings. The sources of happiness are innumerable there. For that reason is that world called Sukhavati, the land of bliss. Why is that land called the land of bliss? What kind of sufferings we have in this world? In order to understand this world, you really have to understand what bodily sufferings we have in this world. What kind of sufferings? Do you know we have suffering in this world, or do you think this world is totally free from suffering? We only have happiness. We have no suffering. First of all, we have birth as suffering. Embryonic birth. Birth is suffering. It is suffering from the perspective of the mom. It's also suffering from the perspective of the baby. The baby has been like in a prison in the mom's body for a certain number of months. He or she wants to be free. So when he comes out, he just want to be free. He has been suffering inside. Imagine if there is a living being inside an embryo for 8 months, 9 months, it's not liberated. It's like an imprisonment. But at that time, the baby is so immature that he cannot express his feelings. So birth is actually a kind of suffering. In the ancient days, when a woman give birth to a baby, she subject herself to some risk. But nowadays, of course, it's because of the advancement of medicine, it's not as risky as before. So birth is suffering. Aging is suffering. No one can be free from aging. You think you don't have to age? When you are young, you don't know the suffering of aging. But once you are getting old, once you get beyond 50, if you are below 50, you may not realize the significance of aging. But once you get beyond 50, and then 60, people have been telling me when you get to 65 or 70, every day is different. You're weaker and weaker day by day. Your immune system is not the same anymore. Your wrinkles start to appear on your face. All your circulation is not the same. Every time when I talk about aging, the senior people look at me and they smile. They say, "Oh, this is it." The young guys, they don't even know. Well, what do they know about aging? They want to get old. They want to grow faster. And for people who spend most of the time in the Epicurean ways of life, they don't know what aging is. They spend their time in drinking, eating, partying. They don't know what is aging. But aging is suffering. You used to be able to run, and you cannot run as fast. You used to be able to walk, you cannot walk as fast. Many things happen in aging. I started to feel that myself. Even your voice changes when you age. So aging is suffering, and sickness is suffering. Anybody who does not need to be sick, can you say, I never get sick? Sickness is suffering. Nobody can escape that. The people say, so what? Yeah, I know. But I know this kind of suffering. I just live within it. I just experience it. The Buddha said, let's get out from all this. We don't need to age. We don't need to get sick. There are ways to be away from aging and sickness. Fourth, death. Do you have to die or you don't need to die? I always ask the question. Raise your hand. You don't need to die, raise your hand. You don't have to die. Anybody who does not have to die, raise your hand, please. Nobody. Some people die in accidents, some people die in natural death, some people die in sickness. So people die. We all die. That's the problem of existence. If anybody asks you, what is the problem of existence? Death. We live in the fear of death. We live in the fear of sickness. We live in the fear of aging. And do you want to do something about it? Or you don't care? Until you really die. One day you really die, it's too late. The Buddha said, do something about all these sufferings before you die. That's the reason why the Buddha became the Buddha. He wanted to get away from all these. Fifth, suffering arising from death of beloved ones. When your dad passed away, your mom passed away, your wife, your husband passed away, your children, you're agonizing. You feel very painful because your beloved ones passed away. And that is suffering. That is a mentality, of suffering and mentality. You experience that kind of agonizing period, maybe for a year, maybe for a month, maybe for 5 years, maybe for life. Suffering arising from death of beloved ones. What else? Suffering arising from living with hated ones, which is just the opposite of 5. In 5, you love someone and he died, she died. In number 6, you hate someone, but you still have to be living with him or her. Husband and wife, they can't get along, but because of the children, they still bind each other together. But they hate each other. Brothers and sisters, they live together, but they hate each other. Colleagues, friends, suffering arising from interacting with people you dislike. That's suffering. What else? Number 7, suffering arising from insatiable desires. There are always desires that you cannot satisfy. You are poor. You may be healthy, but you are poor. You may be poor. You may be rich, but you're not healthy. You may be both rich and healthy, and you don't have a good home. You don't have a good family. Your wife deserted you. Your husband get away from you. So there are always suffering arising from insatiable desires. Number 8, suffering arising from the 5 scanters. That is an aggregate of all the previous 1 to 6 suffering. The 5 scanters is what make up of the body and mind. The 5 scanters: matter, perception, conception, volitions, and consciousness. Perception, conception, volition, and consciousness is spiritual, and matter is material. So that's the body and mind. There's an aggregate of suffering. Suffering arising from earthquakes, from outside, from tsunami, from starvation, from wars, from accidents. Lots of suffering in this world. And do we realize these sufferings? Are we going to do something about them? Now, given that you can't do anything about it, you continue to live. And by the time you leave this world on the verge of death, you have done so much karmic energy that you have to roll into your next reincarnation. You may roll into the 3 vicious realms or the 3 non-vicious realms. But you have to go with your karma into the reincarnation, the 6 paths of reincarnation. But the Buddha said there is a place that you can go to which can escape all these sufferings. And that is in the land of happiness that about this sutra is about to tell you. In other words, everybody has to die anyway. If you practice meditation in this lifetime so that you become successful in your meditation, you get away from reincarnation. Congratulations to you, because you can done it in this lifetime. You can do it in this lifetime, all on your own self-efforts, that you get enlightenment, that you get away from all this suffering, because you don't have to roll into the next reincarnation again. You are detached from samsara, life and death. But for most people, they would not be successful in this lifetime in their meditation, in their practice to attain enlightenment. So what happened to these people? When they die with their karmic energy, they roll into the next reincarnation, go to animal realm, hell realm, ghost realm, the furious realm, or they become humans again, or heavenly beings, or asuras. Where would they go to? Depends on what kind of karmic energy they created for themselves during their lifetime. So assuming that you're not successful in your meditation to be away from samsara, this sutra tells us how do we, when we die, how do we immigrate to this world which is called the land of bliss set up by Amitabha. And that is an expedient way in your practice. That it's a skillful way. In other words, it's a shortcut. You're not the Buddha yet, you're not enlightened yet, but you can go there. If you follow all the requirements as laid out in the sutra, when you died, you go to that land. And some people call that when you die, your soul will be reborn in there, not in reincarnations, to go through all these sufferings. We've seen that this land of bliss is free from suffering. How free is it from suffering? Let's go through it again. Comparison. In that land, birth is by metamorphosis. In this world, how is a sentient being born? How are we get born? 4 ways. One, biologically we call it viviparous. Like a mammals, we are born from the mom's embryo, like a mammal. Viviparous. That's by embryonic birth. That's what we are. We're born from inside of a body, we come out. Another way of being born is oviparous. It's like egg, like chicken from an egg. They're not born from the baby, from the body, they're born from an egg. Oviparous, or oviparous. The third is from moisture and heat. The fourth is metamorphic. Metamorphic is you don't get born from embryo, not from water and heat, and not from egg. You're born out of just the appearance of it. So in that world, it's not born. You're not born from the mom's body. You're born from a lotus flower. So when you die here in that land, if you can go into that land, the lotus flower opened, and you were born from that flower. You stand up from that flower. So there's metamorphosis. Just like people, when they die, if they have so much vicious karmic energy, when they die, they go down to hell. And people in hell, they also born metamorphosis. In other words, you die here, and then you are born, not from the mom's body, not from egg, not from moisture. You just appear in hell, and suffer in hell. The same with heaven. You're born by metamorphosis, not from embryo. So you don't have to go through the prison of the mom's body for so many months. Aging, in there's no aging. In that land of happiness, you may call that land of happiness heaven. There's no aging. In there, there's no sickness. In there, there's no death. Because in there, you will practice under the patronage of Buddha Amitabha and Avalokitesvara. You fought, it's just like, I give an example, I always give an example, it's just, that's the university where you enroll as a student of the Buddha and you learn to be the Buddha non-retrogressively. You won't return to this world. You were born in there, no more death for you. You continue to progress until you become the Buddha. So there's no death in there. Now how is it compared with suffering from death of beloved ones? No death of beloved ones. There's no death of beloved ones in there. Because nobody has to die, so there's no suffering from death of beloved ones. 6, suffering arising from living with hated ones. In there, all the companions are saints and arahats and bodhisattvas. They're all compassionate. There are no hated ones there. And how about suffering arising from insatiable desires? You have mental purity. There's no greediness, there's no ignorance in there, so you don't always have to satisfy your insatiable desires. Desires comes from greediness. You have no more greediness, no more lust. Suffering arising from the 5 skandhas, no such sufferings. So in other words, that's in that land, that land of bliss, people may call it like a heaven, you don't have sufferings anymore. And again, O Saraputra, that world, Sukhavati, is adorned with 7 terraces, with 7 rows of palm trees and with springs of bells. It is enclosed on every side, beautiful, brilliant, with the 4 germs, gold, silver, beryl, crystal, with such arrays of excellences peculiar to a Buddha country is that Buddha country adorned. This sutra contains a very detailed description of heaven. People may ask, what is that land of happiness? How does it look like? So in order to tell you how does it look like, it's adorned with the most precious jewels. It does not mean that people over there, they're attached to the greediness of enjoying those jewels because of what they have done. Their karmic energy have created all these good things, good stuff, good crystals. In other words, if somebody lives in a mansion, he must have done something really good so that he lived in that mansion, not without a reason. If somebody lives in a poor, old, dilapidated hut, squatters, is so poor, there must be a reason for it. He must have done some karmic energy that he lived in that poor hut. If he lived in a splendor, in the splendor of living, he must have done a lot of good deeds to be qualified in there. Not God who determine all this. Whether you're greedy or not, it does not matter because you have created that beautiful world. Your energy have qualified you, have created that world for yourself to go over there. So that land of bliss is with all these jewels, all these excellences, which is clearly detailed in that sutra. And again, O Saraputra, in that world Sukhavati, there are lotus lakes adorned with the 7 germs, gold, silver, beryl, crystal, red pearls, diamonds, and corals as the 7th. They are full of water which possesses the 8 good qualities. Their waters rise as high as the forts and bathing places, so that even crows can drink there. They are strewn with golden sand. This is another detailed description of that heaven, of that place, land of bliss. And why lotus? The lotus is a simple saying that a lotus is grown from the mud, but it's detached from the mud. The lotus grows from a world of dirt, of mud, but its flowers always be above the mud. It's a symbol for purity. And also, lotus have 3 good qualities. The first good quality, lotus flowers and fruits mature at the same time. Usually, a plant sprouts, bloom flowers first, and then they have fruits. But the lotus is not the same. The lotus is flowers and fruits mature at the same time. And also it has pure frequencies. And so that's it grows from the mud and it's detached from the mud. It is all pure. So lotus is a symbol of purity. And the water there has 8 good qualities. The water we are drinking now also have some of these good qualities, but the water there have 8 qualities. What are these 8 qualities? First is purity, it's absolutely pure. Second is refreshing coolness. Third is sweetness. Fourth is softness. Fifth, fertilizing qualities. Sixth, calmness, that water creates a feeling of calmness. And 7 is power of preventing thirst, preventing famine. And 8 is productiveness. Now, water of our world also has some of these qualities. So this is a detailed description of that land of bliss. And in this lotus lakes, there are all around on the 4 sides, 4 stairs, beautiful and brilliant with the 4 germs, gold, silver, beryl, crystal. And on every side of these lotus lakes, germ trees are growing, beautiful and brilliant with the 7 germs, gold, silver, beryl, crystal, red, pearls, diamonds, and corals. That's the 7th. Now, this sutra continues to give you a full description, a magnificent display of all the details of that land of bliss. This detail also appears in other sutras, but this sutra, the smaller Sukhavati Vyoha, give a brief description of that land of bliss.